Hey folks, Rob Friday here. I started this YouTube channel to share some of my predictive index experience. I'm going to be covering all kinds of things from insider tips to the latest PI technology to strategies and tactics that I've seen work over the years. So hopefully you'll enjoy the content. And this is the first in a series of videos to kick things off. And be sure to connect with me on my website at robfriday.com and follow me on Instagram at Talent Optimizer. So today's video, I'll be covering the basics. What is predictive index? How does predictive index work? And why do companies use predictive index? Before I jump into that, just a quick introduction on myself. So I've been a PI practitioner, facilitator for a little over 10 years now. Love working with a variety of different types of organizations, from transportation to banking to high growth tech companies to mom and pop retailers. I got into predictive index because I loved understanding what makes people tick. Growing up, I loved playing poker. I was always that kid organizing the Thursday night poker ring with the boys. And the thing that I loved most about poker was understanding the science of it, how to read people, how to pick up on poker tells, and how to be able to kind of figure out what people were doing without actually knowing what was in their hand. And then I learned there's a whole business end to this and understanding the science of why people do what they do and how they're wired in the business world. So when I got the opportunity to join Predictive Success and learn about predictive index, I jumped at it. I look at my mission to help companies unlock the true potential of their people. And just last year, I wrote my first book, Talent Optimizer, and the tagline is why some companies always get great people. So when it comes to why companies use predictive index, it really boils down to protecting against the forces of disengagement. When people join an organization, they want to perform at a high level, but there's often these situations where people get pulled down. They get sucked into doing the bare minimum to just get by, to not get fired, to collect a paycheck. And typically when people are performing at below optimal levels, but below the level where they're giving you all of their discretionary effort, there's one of four things that are getting in the way. It's typically either a fit to role situation, a job fit situation where the person doesn't really like what they're doing. They're not intrinsically motivated by the type of work they're doing. Could be fit to manager. Could be that the manager doesn't understand how that person's wired. Maybe they're different than the manager. Maybe that manager has a specific way of motivating or putting pressure on people that doesn't really work for that employee. Well, the fit to manager piece is one of the biggest pieces when it comes to understanding engagement or lack thereof. Fit to culture is another key one. Every organization has a culture, whether it's explicitly stated or not. And the culture are, the cultural values are really defined by those things that the organization stands for. You know, if there's certain things that are important enough to fire someone over, those are the cultural values. And that's different for every organization. Not everyone fits in every organization. Having a way of understanding that culture, making it explicit, and clear can help you very quickly determine whether or not people will fit with the organization over the long run. And then there's fit to team. Every team is designed differently, and having teams where people are intentionally put in certain roles for a specific reason is absolutely critical. Not everyone fits on every team, and understanding the science of how to assemble a high performance team by putting a team together of the right types of players. You know, I use examples of sports. If you're thinking about a hockey team, you don't want all people that are trying to score goals. You need some people that are great at defending. You need a goalie on your team. If you had all, the same type of athlete that's always scoring goals, you're not going to be great at defense. You're not going to have a balanced team. Well, putting together a high performance team is all about figuring out what are the different roles on that team that are going to be needed, and then how do you get the right people listed to be part of that team. The impact areas are really boiled down to those four same fit to role, fit to manager, fit to culture, and fit to team. Those four areas determine whether or not people are going to be engaged or disengaged in the workplace. So Predictive Index has created assessments and data to help us create a high performance organization, specifically having impact in those four areas. So be able to design a job, figure out how people fit with that role, and what are the natural fits, what are the gaps, and how do we help coach people towards the role that they're going to be doing. Fit to manager, understanding the relationship between a manager and an employee and giving that manager data to help them understand how that person's wired and how they can effectively motivate and help that person be successful. Fit to culture, understanding how people relate to the culture and making it very clear what those cultural norms are and helping people assimilate into that. And then fit to team, having data to understand, again, what that team is all about and how people are assigned to the right roles. So when it comes down to putting people in the right roles, this is one of the first things I want to talk about with Predictive Index. So the system has an assessment platform where it can define roles, both behaviorally and cognitively. You'll notice on the left here, I've got the marketing assistant position where I've got a behavioral target and a cognitive target. The behavioral target has bars. These bars help me define the 4 factors in terms of how high or low the different factors are for the specific role. So for this marketing assistant, we're looking for someone who is higher than average on the top factor, which is dominance. They're higher than average on extroversion. They're lower than average on patience, and they're about average, if not slightly lower than average, on formality. This role in terms of cognitive is actually quite high. So we're looking for somebody with a high level of cognitive ability, so somebody who's going to be a quick learner, pick things up really quick. Jane Johnson is a fictitious person that I've got here who I've compared to the role, and you can very quickly start to see the fits and gaps. Now, there are a few gaps. It doesn't mean that Jane can't do this job, but it means that when I go to interview Jane, I should focus my questions and probes more specifically on the areas where there might be a bit of behavioral misalignment. So this is the neat thing that you can start to do, is by asking questions that are specifically related to the role and how the person has performed in similar functions in the past. I'm no longer just asking general questions. I'm asking specific questions, and I'm listening for specific things. And that's really that this person can make those flexes or changes when necessary, and understanding, first of all, self-awareness, and then what are their coping skills in order to maintain those changes over the long run. And then the cognitive piece, just basically looking at how does a person relate to the role, especially if the role's got a lot of ongoing change and there's a lot of learning required. The person meets or exceeds the target, great. If they're below the target, doesn't mean they can't do the job again, but I want to ask questions to understand how they've got up to speed quickly in the past. And I look at cognitive in my experience. I always like to say my experience because it's all about the way you use it. And I always like to think about it in terms of, what's the person's natural ability, and then what's the drive of the individual in order to work hard, in order to get up to speed. Those are the 2 things I think about when I look at cognitive. So Predictive Index, the behavioral assessment, it's a free choice assessment. The neat thing about Predictive Index, it only takes about 6 minutes. So it's pretty quick, pretty painless for someone to do it. It doesn't really impact the candidate experience. It's got over 60 years of history, millions of assessments done to date. So very quickly you can get data on what drives someone and how do they relate to the role that they're applying for, potentially the managers they're going to be working with, or the team they're going to be working on, or how do they relate to the overall culture. Well, the PI assessment itself, as I said, takes about 6 minutes. So it's pretty quick. It's available in 70 languages. It's been validated over 350 times across different roles and different industries. And it's measuring 4 core behavioral drives and 1 secondary factor or construct. The 4 drives would be consistent across most of behavioral sciences. So dominance, the degree to which an individual seeks to control their environment. Extroversion, the degree to which an individual seeks social interaction with other people. Patience, how steady and calm is the person, how much they seek consistency and stability in their environment. Formality, the degree to which somebody focuses on following rules and structure. And there's a secondary construct called objectivity, which relates to how much does a person prefer objectivity or subjectivity in decision making. So how much they rely on facts and figures versus intuition and instincts in decision making. So from those 4 main factors and 1 secondary construct, we can get an idea of what people are going to be like in the workplace to help us ask more effective questions. So really, what does this boil down to? Why use Predictive Index? Well, the mistake that I see most companies make when they go to hire people is they focus on what I call the briefcase assets. The briefcase assets are the knowledge, skills, and experience, the stuff you can read off a resume. But the thing that they neglect are the things up top in the head, the behavioral and cognitive drives and abilities, and the stuff in the heart, the values, attitudes, beliefs. And if you think about what drives long-term performance, it's typically not the stuff in the briefcase. You might look at that because it's objective and you can read it off a resume, it's tangible. But if you get data on the other parts, behavior, cognitive, values, attitudes, beliefs, you can get a lot more insight into what someone's going to be like over the long run and thus make better long-term hiring decisions. So we like to say at Predictive Index, our mission, or the company's mission, is better work, better world. If you're interested in learning more, booking a free demo of Predictive Index, join me on my website, robfriday.com. You can sign up there to take a free PI or get in touch with me, book a 30-minute Zoom call. Love to learn more about your business and potentially help you learn more about PI.